Hello Titans, thank you for joining us. If you clicked on this video, you most likely have questions filling out the verification documents on your to-do list. Our office's goal is to answer the questions based on the most common selections made. As you watch this, the most repetitive phrases you will hear is not to leave any section blank, provide all necessary attachments, and have signatures in all required sections. We hope this helps ease the stress in the process of filling out your forms correctly. Before we begin, here is our table of contents for any of you wanting to revisit this video at your own convenience and leisure. We will be discussing the most common verification forms students are requested to submit. As the 2021-2022 academic year is approaching, we will be focusing specifically on the 21-22 forms.
In this section, we'll be going over the Parent Family Size Certification Form and the Student Dependence Verification Form for the 2021 to 2022 academic year. Here we can see the Parent Family Size Certification Form. Be sure to include yourself, your parents' dependent children. This is anybody that receives more than half of their support from your parents, or if they would be required to provide parental information when they're applying for federal student aid. Other people may be included as well if they lived and received more than half of their support from your parents at the time you completed your financial aid application, and will continue to receive the support between July 1st, 2021 and June 30th, 2022. Don't forget to add your date of birth, ensure all spaces are not blank, and have your parents sign the bottom of the form. Here we can see the Student Dependent Verification Form. Federal regulation defines legal dependence as 1, your child if you provide more than half of his or her support, or 2, any other person who lives with you receives more than half of their support from you and will continue to receive the support through June 30th, 2022. For each family member listed, provide the name of the college or university they are attending during the fall 2021 or spring 2022 semesters, if they are enrolled in 6 units or more per semester and the classes are leading to a degree or certificate. Be sure to attach an explanation for anyone listed other than your child or spouse. If you don't have dependents, please check the box towards the top of the form. And be sure to fill in every blank section for anyone listed on this form. Lastly, please sign the bottom of the form before submitting.
Now let's get into the parent and spouse 2019 tax filing statement and the student and spouse 2019 tax filing statement for the 2021-2022 academic year. We understand that these two forms can create some confusion. These two forms are very similar and request ultimately the same information. Also, keep in mind that where it says and spouse, it's only if it applies to the particular student or parent. So we understand that these forms might be a little intimidating with all the verbiage going on, but don't worry, it's super easy to fill out. The main question to focus on is first, if your parents did file their 2019 tax information. If yes, then you'd focus on the left-hand side of the column. If no, it'd be on the right-hand side of the column. If yes, then your parent would go ahead and choose one of the 4 options on the left-hand side. The most common selection is the top one where it says I am unable or choose not to use a data retrieval tool. But for any selection made, just make sure to read the instructions thoroughly below it and attach the proper documentation to support that selection. If the parents did not file taxes for the 2019 year, then the parent would make one of 2 selections on the right-hand side, and again, reading the instructions below it to know which documents to provide. And as always, make sure that there is a parent signature at the bottom as well as a student's name. Similarly here, we have the student and spouse 2019 tax filing statement. Just as for the previous document, if 2019 taxes were filed, you would choose one of the 4 selections on the left-hand column. If the 2019 taxes were not filed, then a selection would be made on the right-hand column. Again, reading the instructions below to know which proper attachments are needed. Please note that for students who are considered independent, will require an IRS statement of non-filing for that particular tax year if taxes were not filed. We get that tax forms can be confusing, so here we'll go over the different acceptable tax documentation based on the selection made for the previous 2 verification forms. For those parents and/or students that did file the 2019 taxes, here is what an acceptable IRS tax return transcript looks like. We first make sure that the tax period is for the 2019 tax year. We also want to be sure that the name or names match the students or parents. Based on the tax filing status, it can show either as single, head of household, or for those who are legally married, should be as married filing jointly or married filing separately. If you cannot access the IRS tax return transcript, we also accept copies of signed 2019 1040 income tax returns. There are 2 pages of the 1040s. Please be sure the second page is signed in the designated section. Here is where it may be a bit tricky and requires a little more work. To avoid having your document be submitted incorrectly, please be sure to attach any and all schedules if applicable. To see if yours or your parents' taxes have a Schedule 1, you will check on line 7A and 8A on the first page. If there is a number value on either line 7A or a number value on line 8A, then you must attach a Schedule 1. If the number values on line 12A and 12B do not match, then a Schedule 2 is needed. If lines 13A or 13B do not match numbers, then a Schedule 3 is needed. Basically, if the values do not match, Schedule 2 and Schedule 3 must be provided along with the 2019 1040s. Some taxes have all schedules 1, 2, and 3, and some schedules might have either 1, either 2, or 3, or sometimes just 2. So just go ahead and double check if yours do. And so here we have an example of what a Schedule 1 looks like. Here you can see that the title of the page is on the left-hand side where you can see Schedule 1. Here is an example of Schedule 2. And lastly, here is an example of Schedule 3. And lastly, for those who did not file a 2019 tax return, either a parent, spouse, or independent student, here is what the IRS confirmation of non-filing letter looks like. Again, be sure that the tax period shows 2019.
We will now go over the citizenship verification form and its supporting documents. Here we can see the citizenship verification form. Federal law requires a recipient of financial aid to be either a United States citizen or an eligible non-citizen. In order to verify your status as eligible for federal aid, complete this form and attach signed photocopies of the front and back of your documentation for the item you check below. If you are a United States citizen, you would submit this form with the birth certificate, United States passport, or your naturalization certificate. And as always, be sure to sign the bottom of the form. Here we can see examples of a birth certificate and a United States passport. If you are submitting the citizenship verification form with your passport, please be sure that the passport is signed. Here we can see an example of the naturalization certificate. If you are submitting this attachment with the citizenship verification form, please be sure that the certificate is signed. In this next section, we will be going over the Selective Service Registration Verification form. Here on the left, you're able to see the Selective Service Registration Verification form, and on the right side, you're able to see the Selective Service Registration card. If you have registered with Selective Service, please submit the form and attach a copy of your Selective Service Registration card or a printout from the Selective Service website. If you choose to submit a copy of your registration card, please be sure to sign it. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact us. Our office hours are between Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And although we are closed physically, we are still open virtually to assist students. Our phone number is 657-278-3125, and our email is financialaid@fullerton.edu. Remember, if you are submitting the financial aid verification documents, you may do so online via our website. Thank you for listening.